Welcome to Watch, Review, Repeat. This is the podcast where two best friends discuss the latest in film and television and then do it all over again the following week. My name is Colton Brown, and joining me is Andrew Meadows.
Tonight we're going to talk about movies.
Oh, yes, we are. We have two movies on tap for our listeners this week.
Ooh.
And it might be a tale of two extremes, perhaps. Maybe one of these movies is really good, and one of these movies is really shit. I'm not going to tell you which one is which. You're going to have to wait for our full discussion to really get the nitty-gritty details on everything here. But yeah, we're doing a double feature.
You could probably place bets, though. I think it's probably a safe thing if you want to bet with your friends.
You might be surprised. You might be. You got to stay tuned, all right? You know, can't spill all the beans so soon.
No beans being spilled here.
So we're talking A Star is Born and Venom. Venom? I don't know if that was a good Venom voice or not.
It wasn't, because I could understand you.
Oh, yeah. This shit wasn't garbled enough. Yeah, I apologize. I can go back and add some effects to that, but
there we go.
That's too much work. I won't do that. Yeah, Star is Born Venom came out same weekend. I think set a weekend record for box office between the two of them. We'll get into that in a little while as well. But yeah, it seems like October, for some reason, like compared to September, like they're like starting to put out like a ton of movies. Like, you know, we've bagged on Venom for basically this entire year for good reason, admittedly, based on the trailers that had been, you know, put out. But between that, Star is Born, things we have on tap for our next episode, and beyond, basically for the rest of this month, there's just a lot of movies that either catch our interest and, you know, we really want to talk about them, or they're kind of the big things, you know, and for the general populace, and really kind of like, okay, we probably should at least watch it and cover it, to you know, address that aspect of things. So yeah,
we're getting into movie season, man. It's good. It's exciting.
It's nice. And say, unfortunately, it kind of goes back against the idea of trying to do this a little bit less frequently to accommodate my busy schedule. But
yeah, now we just cram it all in one episode. Fuck it.
Yeah, it might be a long one, but I mean, that's nothing new. We have long episodes all the time. We tell ourselves, oh, this is going to be an hour episode. 3 hours later, we haven't even started like the fucking movie yet. So
we're still here.
We're not going to do that this time, but yeah, double feature. So, you know, just be prepared. Quick housekeeping. Our latest bonus episode is available to our supporters on Patreon, and that is covering the Dark Knight trilogy, Christopher Nolan's Batman trilogy. It was a good one. We had Henrique Jamie join us for our... I lost count of how many times he's joined us, but I want to say at least the fifth or sixth time that he's joined us, and we always enjoy having him on to talk about
pretty much
movies
a resident
superhero
guest. I think
I would say that's fair. He's been on for, I think, every Marvel Cinematic Universe movie we've done. So we brought him on for a DC counterpart, you know, the good DC counterpart. So yeah, check that out. WatchReviewRepeat.com. Go to the premium tab, and then click the Become a Patron button. $2 a month. You get all the bonus episodes that we have. You get early access to regular episodes. And you get to be a cool person. So do it. Fun fact. Do you have a fun fact lined up this week?
I do have a fun fact lined up this week.
Well, do tell.
My fun fact is that Bradley Cooper is given an award by PETA for casting his own dog Charlie in A Star is Born.
Okay. All right. Yeah. Okay.
And they're apparently Hollywood is notorious for bringing in animal exhibitors. I'm sorry, to be in movies and whatnot. And Bradley Cooper says, "No, I'm not going to hire somebody's dog. I'm going to bring my own dog in here." And PETA likes that, and they're going to give him an award apparently. So,
all right, well, hats off to Charlie. Charlie delivered a hell of a performance in A Star is Born.
He's an incredibly good-looking dog, though.
Very handsome.
Pretty doggy.
Very handsome.
Yeah. So,
well,
did you bring something to the table this week?
Yeah, I didn't want to step on your toes. You know, I had a fun fact lined up. It's a very quick and simple one, but I was hoping that you wouldn't steal it. But if you did, it would have been fine. But the good news is you didn't. So my fun fact actually concerns both of the movies that we're talking about today. And you're thinking, what common ground could these two movies possibly have? Well, I'll tell you. they have common ground in the form of Mr. Matthew Libatique, who is an American cinematographer, best known for his work with Darren Aronofsky on Pi, Requiem for a Dream, Fountain, Black Swan, Noah, and Mother. He's also worked with John Favreau on Iron Man and Iron Man 2. And he was the cinematographer on A Star is Born with Bradley Cooper and Venom with Ruben Fleischer. So that's an interesting combination to have on the old resume for 2018, I would say. But clearly he's a talented guy, so, you know.
I mean, that's one thing I was going to really get into. I didn't pay attention to that. I didn't look who shot it. It's something I guess we could talk about. We'll talk about it later.
Yeah, we'll get into it later, but yeah,
noting, though.
Like I said, I mean, it's pretty, it's got to be unusual for the same cinematographer to work on two movies that come out in the same weekend. Like, I have to think that's a pretty uncommon thing to happen. I mean, obviously, cinematographers got to eat. You know, they work on several movies throughout the year, but I found that was kind of interesting that, I mean, it's not like these movies are like each other in any sort of respect outside of the fact that they're
even
both
shot
movies.
Drastically different, though.
Right, and that's what I mean. Like, you wouldn't look at these movies and think, I can kind of see, you know, this definitely feels like the same guy. I'm like, no, it doesn't feel like the same guy in any way whatsoever. So, yeah. So
you
anyway,
could probably tell where his heart was at. That's probably fair.
Maybe. And again, we can't say which movie we're talking about here. You'll just have to stay tuned for that. So let's jump into news for this week. Again, we're kind of slimming down our news section as much as we can because we're recording less frequently, which naturally means that there's more news coming in, and we'd be here all day. And we'd like to be here all day talking about news. I'd have no issues with that, but I know everyone's not on board for that, and you know,
and you have to edit
the purpose of this is to talk about movies, and yeah, well, that's probably the real crux of the issue. Is good Lord, I don't want to listen to myself talk about news for hours upon hours. I've done it before. Not fun. But I did want to make mention of a lot of the trailers that have come out kind of since we recorded last. It's probably been about 2.5 weeks if I had to roughly estimate it. But these weeks,
been a bunch.
These weeks have felt like months because I've been busier than I've ever been. But of the trailers that we got a new one for Bumblebee, the Transformers spinoff / prequel type thing, maybe it's in its own universe. Who's to say? I guess it probably depends on how much people like it. We got Fantastic Beasts: The Crimes of Grindelwald, a final trailer for that's coming out in November. So pretty soon. Creed 2, also a November release, got another trailer. Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse, December release, got another trailer. And then in the TV world, we got Daredevil Season 3, an official trailer for that, full 2+ minute trailer. Gets you a lot more details on kind of what the season's looking like. And there was also another little look, a little insight into a particular character they've added for Season 3, and I won't elaborate on that, but Benjamin Poindexter, if you're curious about that, just Google that name or look it up in YouTube, and you might catch what's happening in Daredevil Season 3, but that's dropping in like a week plus, so I don't feel the need to like elaborate too much on any of these, just because I think that we've talked about most of these in the past. I think we've talked about all of these in the past. I think we can say that for the most part, we're looking forward to these. I think Fantastic Beasts, I think we're looking forward to. Is that fair?
Sure.
Fair statement?
Yeah, no, that's fair. One thing that it's the official trailer for Bumblebee actually it's made me a little curious about it.
Yeah, and I was actually gonna circle back to that because I was gonna go through the ones that I think that we can agree.
I gotcha.
And I wasn't sure if we were gonna agree on Bumblebee, so I was gonna circle back to that. But let's talk about Bumblebee. Yeah, I don't know. This looks pretty fun, I thought.
It definitely looks interesting at the very least.
This is the first time that the Transformers property is being adapted to live action without the presence of Michael Bay behind the camera. And we know how kinetic a director he is. I mean, he's always going ham. And I think that they're going to take a step back in terms of directing energy, but in terms of directing talent, I think that there might be a step up. This is the Travis Knight. He's the guy that directed Kubo and the Two Strings. So
yeah, he's capable.
That's good pedigree right there. And Haley Steinfeld is great. John Cena, you can't see him, so he's obviously great. But the designs just look so much better. You know, we see a look at like a Generation 1 styled Optimus Prime, and what is not actually apparently Starscream, even though he looks exactly like Starscream. I think they changed the name, or whatever. The designs look better.
You got those weird...
The whole feel and tone of it looks just much better than like the Bayformers, I feel. So I there might be something here. And you know, I kind of somewhat alluded to it, but I wouldn't be surprised if they treat this almost as a soft reboot of the universe. You know, if it does well, I think that it could definitely fit within to the Bayformers canon if they wanted it to, but I could definitely see them using this as like a jumping off point. Like, okay, maybe we've revived the Transformers property if this does well, you know, because Transformers has had pretty much diminishing returns, I think, from 3 to 5, because I think the general audiences took them a while, but I think they're finally catching on to the fact that those movies are terrible. So hopefully this bucks the trend. I definitely think that it looks like a step in the right direction, and I'm hopeful that it, if nothing else, that it's, you know, watchable and it's fun. So it sounds like you're somewhat
definitely
in that
on board. Yeah, no, it looks
okay.
Definitely looks interesting. I like there's like these purple robots. You know which ones I'm talking about? The ones with the guns?
Yeah.
Are they purple? From memory, I think they're purple. Anyways, I don't know. It looks more like comic booky, I think. Is that fair?
I think that's fair. I would say that's fair.
And I think that's a good place to take it. And I think it looks fun and interesting, and I'm excited to see what they do with it, which is a complete reversal from my opinion on it when we got that, teaser.
Yeah, the teaser, right, yeah. So
it's nice when trailers can yield that kind of response, you know, not very like Venom's marketing. It's been consistently shit. Where Bumblebee, you know, it started off where you weren't interested. You see the trailer and it's like, hey, you know, there might be something there. So that is cool. So
agreed. So yeah, just kind of hitting on some of the other ones. Creed 2 looks great. Michael B. Jordan looks fucking ripped. Sylvester Stallone better get his Oscar for this shit, man. I mean, I don't know if he's going to deliver a Creed 1-esque performance, but I still feel that he was robbed.
Did he get an Oscar for that?
He did not. He was nominated, but he lost, and I feel he needs to be vindicated.
Who did he lose to, do you know?
He lost to Mr. Mark Rylance for Bridge of Spies.
No, I didn't see that. So,
you know, usually if you get nominated, it's usually a pretty capable performance, but Creed was a movie that just, like, if Mad Max did not come out in that year, like, Creed would have been it for me.
Yeah.
But it was a close number 2, and that says a lot. Creed 2 looks great. Yeah, you know, I think that the direction for the story is a little hokey, but it looks good. And Rocky's honestly always been a little hokey.
But the direction of the story sounds so fucking cool. I mean, that's cool.
I don't know that cool would be the word that I would use. I mean, you know, it's kind of cornball to begin with, in the sense that, you know, he's Apollo Creed's son, so okay, he's gonna fight, you know, Drago's son, you know, okay, you know, like I said, there's always been, I think, a little bit of hokiness to certainly the later entries, I would say, in the Rocky franchise. Kind of when they did a little bit
kind of deal, man.
Yeah. You know, it's not tended to be, you know, like 100% like super realistic. So I think that kind of, I think it fits the franchise overall. So I'm definitely looking forward to it. I think it's going to be good. And I think Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse looks fucking great. Like, this looks like what Sony should be focusing on.
This is an example of an excellent trailer. Or was it a teaser that came out first? What did we get before? You can't tell anymore between teasers and trailers anymore.
Yeah, sometimes they're, you know, the teaser trailer is 2 minutes long and it has a shit ton of footage. Sometimes it's like a logo. So yeah, I mean, this is definitely an official trailer. I don't know what the other one before was considered.
Well, that was cool. The first one was cool, and this one I think is better, and it's ramping up, which is awesome. I'm very stoked.
Yeah, I think it looks good. And as a side note, this isn't really a spoiler, but there's like a 4-minute, I think, clip from this movie that is attached to Venom as the post-credits scene. So I didn't stay for that because I didn't want to watch 4 minutes of a movie that comes out in like 2 months. But I've heard really good things about that.
Because I was ready to fucking leave.
They were actually. I actually did think about that. Like I was like basically by the trash cans walking out of the auditorium. Wait, hold on. Have we tipped our hands about which movie we didn't like? Oh no, we have to scrub this from the record. No, yeah, I actually was just I kind of bolted myself, and then I was just like, oh, but then I was like, I didn't really want to stay for that anyway, because like I said, it comes out so soon, and like I don't, just like a 4-minute clip like lifted directly from the movie, like I can wait. Like it looks great and all, but I just watched the trailer that was attached to the Venom, print before it. So yeah. Anyway, looks good. Looking forward to it. Daredevil season 3 looks fucking awesome. Drops, like I said, in like a week and a half. We're going to be covering it. I think we talked about the idea of doing Luke Cage and Iron Fist, like a Heroes for Hire type episode. We can go ahead and say it right now. We're going to cover all 3 in like one big episode. Either kind of tail end of this month or early November. It just depends on how long it takes for us to get through the 13 episodes of Daredevil. So we'll reserve, I think, kind of our judgment for when the full season comes out.
Yeah.
And I have one last trailer I want to talk about, and I didn't mention it already. Dark Phoenix.
Let's talk about it.
Well, first of all, they've dropped X-Men from the title, which is interesting. This movie is just flat out called Dark Phoenix.
They did keep the little X, like circle thing.
There's a little nod to it
like,
being an X-Men movie.
It might be X-Men, right? Homeboy's bald. I like that look. He looks cool as a bald Professor X.
Well, I mean, if you're really that concerned with Professor X being bald, then you should have loved X-Men Apocalypse, the origin story for Xavier's baldness.
I can't remember.
Yeah, this one looks like Apocalypse Part 2. So I have another note on this that I'll get to in just a second, but this is like this is kind of the same thing where you're talking about like, is this a teaser or is this a trailer? It's like, it kind of feels like a teaser in the sense that there's no effects shots in this basically whatsoever, but it's like 2+ minutes of just people standing around in ill-fitting costumes, and it's just like, what is happening here? Like, I know that they're like reshooting this movie or reshot a good chunk of this movie, or I think the rumor was like 3 months, which I think is bullshit. I think they reshot a couple weeks on it. But, and obviously with the pending Disney-Fox merger, I'm not sure that Fox is in a position to even give a flying fuck if they ever did to begin with. But, like, holy shit, like, what a boring fucking trailer this was. Like, incredibly boring. Like, this is the second attempt at the Phoenix Saga. We got it in X-Men The Last Stand, the third one.
That was a good one.
And this looks like a fucking remake of that movie. Like, holy fucking shit. What are you doing? What are you doing? Like, this is directed and written by the guy that fucking wrote The Last Stand. It's like he's doing the same movie over again with a different cast. Like, what the fuck?
He read the comics when he was a kid and said, fuck Phoenix, hate Phoenix. And so he made it his life work to just fuck any sort of adaptation of the Phoenix. It's so sad, too, because it's such a cool character, man.
And it sucks, too, because they're doing this basically right on the cusp of Marvel kind of taking over. And it's kind of like, I feel like in the sense that, Sony doing their own Venom movie kind of precludes the possibility of Venom ever really showing up properly in the Marvel Cinematic Universe. This kind of poisons the well, too, because you can't really do this story. Like, you already fucked it up once, but you could, that was 10+ years ago. People have forgotten about that. Now this is going to be in the forefront of people's minds, and, I think that it would be a strong direction for the Jean Grey character to go in a properly adapted version of the source material. This just looks like a perfunctory, like contractually obligated, dump of money. And
we did
just
3
don't
X-Men
understand
movies. It's time for a Phoenix movie.
And I also want to make a note that this takes place in the 90s. And if you'll notice, First Class took place in the 60s. Are you really going to argue that the cast has aged 25 to 30 years from First Class? Because they all look exactly the same. I don't know if you know this. I think someone pointed out that like there's like a few years gap for Michael Fassbender to somehow magically warp into Ian McKellen. And I'm just like, yeah, that is a little funny, isn't it?
The continuity between the X-Men franchise has always been real shit.
Yeah. Anyway,
craziness.
if that wasn't enough to sell you on how little Fox gives a shit, let me point you to this little nugget. They put this trailer out with a release date of June 7th. I'm sorry, with the release date of February 14th, 2019. Less than a week later, they announced that the film had been delayed to June 7th, 2019, the date I mentioned first.
God damn.
So they put this trailer out, and then a few days later, they're like, wait, we're going to delay this movie. I mean, come on. Like, you gotta, like, surely that was not a decision that was made between the span of releasing the trailer and announcing the delay. Like, come on. Like, it's insane to me. As a side note, Alita Battle Angel got bumped from its Christmas slot. It will now be taking that February 14th slot. Good move, actually, because it was going to get swallowed alive on Christmas. I think it'll still get buried in February, especially for the amount of money that's going into it. But yeah, it was going to get just swamped by Aquaman, Bumblebee, the Will Ferrell Sherlock Holmes movie, whatever it's called. Yeah, it was a bad date for it. So I think that's actually a good move. So +1 for Fox. And I'm going to take that one away because they're re-releasing Deadpool 2 on Christmas now in a PG-13 version.
What?
With added footage and apparently a new character. Apparently Fred Savage is going to be in the movie now. So I don't know what the fuck that entails, but again, Fox has lost their fucking minds. The Disney acquisition is apparently going to be active or effective on the 1st of the year. So can't wait.
Good.
Can't wait.
Yeah, good.
I will turn the reins over to you, my friend. What news do you have to share with our listeners for this week?
We did get a fucking really awesome, or as the poster would indicate, a legendary as fuck poster for Hellboy. And it is really cool. How do you feel about this?
Yeah, poster looks badass. Tagline is real shit, but I can live with taglines being bad.
It's a really terrible tagline. I don't know why they would put that on the poster.
It feels like very corporate, try hard, like people in a boardroom, like, what do the kids like these days? And like, oh, they're using AF. And like, I just imagine like the boardroom spending 30 minutes trying to figure out what it is. And then one of them texts their kid and they're like, yeah, Dad, that just means as fuck. Bad. Just, it feels kind of gross in a way. But the image itself looks great. David Harbour of Stranger Things, playing Hellboy, looks fucking awesome. He's got the horns and shit. Yeah, it looks pretty badass.
It looks pretty terrifying. And then a couple days later, I think they released they had that big banner art where it shows the demons and all sorts of stuff. It shows the witch. I can't remember what her name is.
I think the Blood Witch. I could be mistaken on that, but yeah, this dropped during New York Comic Con, which happened, I guess this past weekend, and that's where some of these trailers came out. I know Daredevil particularly kind of dropped around that time. So yeah, I mean, creature design was always a strong suit for the Hellboy films. I think probably for the franchise in general. This one's not. There's no Del Toro involvement, no Guillermo Del Toro involvement with this one, but
Hellboy looks cool.
Stylistically, yeah, it looks fucking awesome.
The second bit of news I have is we got my boy Johnny V pumped out an update for us on the Star Wars live action television series, which is set to air on Disney Play. Did you know about this?
Yeah, it's the Disney streaming service that they're debuting, I guess, at this point next year.
Okay, all right. We got a bunch of details. I don't know how much came in the press release or the thing that he put out. I'm not sure, so you'll have to keep my news in line. But we got an image of a Mandalorian, and it's pretty cool. It's cool costume design. He looks like a Mandalorian. And it's supposed to take place after the fall of the Empire, but before the emergence of the First Order. And it follows a lone gunfighter in the outer reaches of the galaxy. And sounds exciting. We got a couple of directors. Taika Waititi is going to be directing an episode, and Bryce Howard is going to be directing an episode along with Dave Filoni and Deborah Chow and Rick Famuyiwa. I can't say his last name. His name's Rick. Rick's going to be directing an episode. And this sounds like it's going to be pretty freaking good, man. I'm really excited about this. Also, the guy that there's casting rumors. Is it still a rumor, or did they publicly put it out?
Yeah, so there's been no cast details on this yet, but the rumor is that Pedro Pascal, the Red Viper of Game of Thrones,
or Justin Timberlake from
Justin Timberlake from Kingsman, the second Kingsman. That's correct. That's a good callback. I wonder if our listeners are going to remember that one. That one's pretty good. It's pretty good. Yes, he is reportedly playing the lead role of the Mandalorian,
which is incredibly. I think that's probably the news that got me. That and Taika Waititi. Those two things right there got me super pumped. I am very much looking forward to this.
Yeah. Small correction. Taika Waititi is his name.
What'd I say?
Put some respect on it. Taquita. Yeah. And Rick Famuyiwa would be the pronunciation of that man's name. He directed Dope movie from a few years back. He was attached to the Flash film for the longest time. Dropped out, I think, probably a couple of years ago now because that movie's kind of been stuck in development hell. Bryce Dallas Howard, I think mostly known for acting.
Jurassic World or
Jurassic Park. World, Spider-Man 3, which also featured Venom.
Was she in that? Who was she playing that?
She was Gwen Stacy.
Was she really?
She was.
She was. Yeah, okay, I can remember now. Yeah.
Yeah. And also daughter of Solo, a Star Wars story director, Ron Howard.
Yeah, it's cool.
So that's cool. There was also another rumor that cropped up that would track with these directing announcements that Bryce Dallas Howard and Taika Waititi would actually have acting roles in this series as well.
That'd be great.
So, I mean, both have plenty of experience in front of the camera, so I would definitely think that would make sense. So that would be very cool indeed. So, yeah, this looks fucking cool, this picture that they released. I mean, the Mandalorian armor, the
cool.
design in general is just really cool. And, like, Johnny V, Star Wars live action.
Oh, yeah, it all goes together really
proper
well.
budget going into this. I think it's 10 episodes is what they said is happening. Like, dude, like this...
It's going to be good.
People can bitch all they want about Star Wars fatigue. I will not get fatigued by Star Wars under this current leadership. Like, give me as much as you're comfortable with making. You know,
that's it. I'll take them all until you start putting out shit, and then I'll probably.
Well, that's what I'm saying. You know, under the current leadership, where I've been very happy with the output, it's hard to complain for me. Which obviously not everyone feels the same way, but. I can't save everyone. You got anything else? Any other news?
Yeah. The last thing I want to talk about is the Vice trailer. Primarily because we spent a lot of time talking about Christian Bale in our bonus episode. He gained a shit ton of weight for this role, and
he's got a serious fucking stomach.
He has a serious stomach. He's got a serious double chin thing going on. And Christian Bale has he's got a pretty decent history of drastic body transformation for roles. He did what he did he do The Machinist first, or did he do Batman
He did The
first?
Machinist before Batman Begins.
Okay, yeah, and that was absolutely absurd. It's crazy. And then he did whatever, I don't know what he's been up to here lately, but then he did Vice, and he put on...
I think he's done a couple where he's put on weight. I think American Hustle he put on weight, but not like... this has got to be the heaviest he's been for a role, I would think.
Yeah, he does not look very healthy in this movie. But it looks pretty exciting. I really, really appreciate Sam Rockwell as George W. Bush. I think that was great.
Yeah. I think they kind of start the trailer with that interaction between, Rockwell's W and Bale's Cheney, and Yeah, I feel like that has to sell you right away. Like if that doesn't grab you, I'm not sure that this is like a movie that's going to grab you. But for me, I was just like, okay, Adam McKay, kind of doing the same thing that he did with what was the fucking movie that he did? Big Short. It feels like a Big Short type approach to the vice presidency under George W. Bush.
I want you to be my vice.
This is another Christmas release, by the way. So, like I said,
holy shit,
Alita would have just gotten swallowed alive. So, you got anything else to talk about?
No, that's all I got, man. Pretty much want to talk about body transformation on Christian Bale, the Hellboy poster, and Johnny V's Star Wars. We always got to talk about Star Wars anytime we get any updates. So, we could probably talk about some movies though, if you like.
Yeah, let's start with A Star is Born. A Star is Born is directed by Bradley Cooper, making his directorial debut. It is written by Bradley Cooper alongside Eric Roth and Will Fetters. It stars Bradley Cooper, Lady Gaga, Andrew Dice Clay, Dave Chappelle, and Sam Elliott. Tells the story of a hard-drinking musician who discovers and falls in love with a young singer. Box office-wise, it came in at number 2 for the weekend. Up against Venom. Venom has his fans, A lot of them. A lot of people turned out for it, but a lot of people turned out for A Star is Born. $42.9 million at number 2. I mean, that's really good, especially for a movie like this. And I think it's only going to have really strong legs from this point on too. As of recording this, worldwide total stands at $71.3 million. So not making a ton of money overseas, but again, for a movie of this kind of nature, those are good numbers, and they're only going to get bigger. So non-spoilers. Let's start with some non-spoilers. What did you think of A Star is Born? And I guess maybe it's worth pointing out, I think you're less than like an hour removed, or maybe a couple hours removed from seeing this movie. Is that right?
Yeah. Well, I don't know if I sound stuffy this episode, but I don't think I've cried as much as I did in this movie. Full disclosure, it was a good thing I was watching it by myself, or maybe it wasn't. Maybe I was, maybe it was a bad thing. I don't know. But I watched it by myself, and at the end of the movie, I got up and said, "God damn." And everybody, like the general response in the theater, because there was a decent amount of people in the theater for, or recording on a Wednesday. There was pretty decent turnout, and it's a very, very, very emotional, touching movie. It hit all sorts of chords in me throughout the whole thing. It was so good. Shout out to Bradley Cooper. He put the shit together really, really well. It's really well written. I think it's, you were talking about the cinematography, and it was going to be something that I was going to point out, that it was shot really, really well. And if the guy that works with Darren Aronofsky if he shot this, I mean, it's, shout out to that guy. But that was going to be one of my talking points, was the way it was shot. It was very personal. And the lighting and everything, it was really fucking good. That title card, what'd you think about that title card? Did you like that?
Yeah, it was a nice touch. Yeah, I would say so. I actually didn't even think to mention it. I saw this the Friday it came out, so it's been coming up on a week since I've seen it, but it's a movie that sticks with you. I will say that. So that particular detail I kind of forgot about until you just mentioned it, but yeah, it felt like a deliberate throwback to a yesteryear, to an older era of film. And on that note, this is a remake of, I think the original version of this story was in 1937. I think they did another version of the 50s, another version in the 70s, and then now we have a version for the 21st century. So I felt like that was definitely a nod to maybe the origins of this story.
Right. The music. This is going to be something I'll be buying on vinyl. The song, I really like the songs. The songs are really, really fucking good. That and Lady Gaga can sing, and she's got some acting chops that I did not know she had. And Lady Gaga is a very talented lady. She's a very talented lady. But gosh, she's got some pipes. She can sing really well. And so can Bradley Cooper. Bradley Cooper sang really good too, man. Really good performances all the way around. The subtle uses of just a little bit like micro expressions and stuff that they put in. Acting is on full display here.
I feel like the film has a very naturalistic feel to the way that it's shot and the way that the characters interact. And I think some of it's kind of mirroring. There's kind of, it's not really a spoiler. Bradley Cooper's character is somewhat hard of hearing. And then there's a lot of times where some of the dialogue is kind of mixed in a way that it's, there's a lot of people talking at once. That happens in real life. And I feel like it's kind of not only a reflection of kind of what his character is hearing, but also just general interactions. It didn't feel Hollywoodized in the sense of this feels like a scripted conversation. There was some very natural, easy chemistry among the cast. Obviously between Bradley Cooper and Lady Gaga, first and foremost. But I think overall, between all the cast, scenes with Dave Chappelle, just a very natural feel and flow to the movie itself.
The way it was edited and the way it was shot, there was a lot of lingering shots on people's faces, and it was, I don't know, man. What's his name? The cinematographer?
Matthew Libatique.
Yeah, that guy's fucking good. He's really good.
And we have to give credit to Bradley Cooper for directing this. I mean,
true.
Granted, he's obviously been around the block a few times in terms of acting, but for a first-time director to put out, I would say, a movie like this, it's pretty impressive. It's really impressive.
It is. Oh yeah.
Let me just jump on to kind of what you talked about and say that this is in fact the movie that is the good one of the two that we're talking about. It's a great film, and Bradley Cooper's direction is definitely kind of one of the things I think that sells it. But man, the performances across the board, but obviously with particular shout out to Bradley Cooper himself as Jackson Maine.
Oh yeah.
Transformation. Looks like Bradley Cooper. Yeah. Doesn't sound a fucking thing like Bradley Cooper. And those mannerisms you're talking about, just the lingering shots, dude owned this role. Just absolutely owned this role. And Lady Gaga, man, holy shit. For me,
has she been in anything before?
She's done some other acting roles, I think mostly on TV. She was in American Horror Story, and I think several seasons. And I think she did one of the Robert Rodriguez flicks, maybe.
Okay.
But this is definitely her best performance, without a doubt. She's fantastic in this. From an acting standpoint, she's just phenomenal in this. And then from a singing standpoint, I've never been a big fan of Lady Gaga's work in general. It's just kind of not my type of music that I typically listen to, but I've always had a respect for her talent. I just always kind of found her image kind of was just kind of okay, when she's wearing the meat dresses and the Kermit dresses,
it's kind of like a Madonna kind of deal, yeah.
Probably even more exaggerated than that, and I always kind of just kind of rolled my eyes looking at it, just kind of the visage that she projected. I was just okay, whatever. But I think that she's always had talent. I've never kind of called that into question. I've always thought that she was really, really talented, and I think that this, for me, is a channeling of her talent in a way that is really, really much more my speed. Because as you mentioned, the soundtrack here is great. I mean, the music that the Bradley Cooper character has is fucking great. That's I would 100% listen to that type of music.
Fuck yeah, man.
If there was a full album of that. I mean, obviously there's a soundtrack of this album that has several songs, but in a world where Jackson Maine was, singer-songwriter, I would buy his albums and listen to them. The music that Lady Gaga, usually puts out, again, she's good at what she does, but not kind of what I go for. But she crushes it, and basically she kind of, does different types of songs throughout the movie, and she's great at everything. She's great, alongside Bradley Cooper, in terms of, just owning the role. And it's not really a limb that I'm going out on and saying this, but she's got to jump to a Best Actress kind of contender based on this performance, I would say. And I think Bradley Cooper should be there too, for Best Actor.
I mean, they're incredible performances, man.
I don't know that either of them will win per se, and obviously that the field hasn't been completed. There might be some stronger contenders to come, perhaps. But this has got to be a shoo-in, if nothing else, for like the best original song. I assume "Shallow" is probably going to get nominated. That's kind of the duet that they have.
Yeah.
But everything, they're all great. Like even like there's like a song that's kind of like it's kind of lampshading like pop music in general.
Right.
It's kind of catchy too, So like like even the quote unquote bad songs here are still pretty fucking good. So. Great film. I really, really thought that this was fantastic.
What do you think about that sequence at the... can we talk about sequences? Or no? Do we should save that for spoilers?
Maybe. Let's save that for spoilers because...
Okay, all right. Generalities.
Yeah, I'm sticking with generalities because there's definitely some specific things I want to touch on in spoilers. So, yeah, cinematography, as you mentioned, phenomenal. I wanted to talk about the supporting cast, too. Andrew Dice Clay, fucking Dice Man in this is great. He's Allie's father, Lady Gaga's character's father.
Okay. Yeah.
Great. Dave Chappelle, too brief of a role, I thought, but great to see him here. And Sam Elliott, man.
Sam Elliott fucking nailed it, man.
Sam Elliott nails it. There's a particular moment, I'm sure you know what I'm talking about, where like Sam Elliott might have just, again, he's in the conversation for Best Supporting Actor on the basis of one single moment in this film. And it's for a film like this to kind of have performances, and it's not it's not just performances. Like it's a simple story, but it's so eloquently told.
It's told so raw and so real, and
it's such a visually captivating, audibly captivating format. Like shit, man, like movies like this don't come around too often. It's not. I have some reservations with some things that we'll get into in spoilers, but I think across the board, like it's a really, really strong film. Really strong.
Oh yeah, there's fucking no doubt about it, man. Like you said, I don't know, a couple hours out now. But I still, I was thinking about it on the way home, and it's just.
I saw this movie on Friday, and it's been in my mind every single day. Sometimes, some days I'm listening to this, the soundtrack on Spotify. I watched Venom on Sunday as a counterpoint. I haven't thought about that movie since Sunday. Not to jump ahead too much, but there's a stark difference between these movies. One feels like a work of art, like people gave a shit, like people had something that they wanted to do, and the other one feels like a corporate generated product that was shit out as fast and cheaply as possible.
But it did make 4 times as much worldwide. So
yep. Well, that's kind of the nature of the beast, but it is what it is. But do you have any?
The last thing I'll tell you is, okay, I actually reached out and I texted my mom as soon as I got out of that movie, and I texted a few people. Listen, you owe it to yourself to go watch this movie. If we're gonna jump it into fucking recommend, I guess we're jumping right into recommend.
Well, I was gonna ask you if you had any non-spoiler thoughts, but you just went there. So
yeah. Yep. So, I mean, as a natural segue, I left the theater for 2 reasons. I was the first one out of the theater because I was a mess when I got up, and I immediately pulled up my phone and I put my nose in my phone because I didn't want to have to look at anybody and use my eyes. So I kind of just walked out of the theater with my head down. And I texted just about everybody I talked to on a normal daily basis, and told them, you need to go watch this movie. You owe it to yourself to go fucking watch it. It's such a good movie. And I think I'm gonna be saying that for as long as it's in theaters until I go see. Well, probably until next week, because I think there's gonna be a good movie coming out next week too. But
yeah, I mean, I did something similar. Friday, 10:18 p.m. I'm looking at my phone now. I sent this to you.
I think
Star
you
is
texted
Born.
me. Yeah,
get on it, son.
Yeah,
I tried to keep it as neutral as possible because I usually, we usually have a pretty good feel on kind of how we think about things, but for the purposes of this podcast, I try to preserve as much surprise as possible in terms of like specific details. I didn't want to tip my hand too much, but I did want to urge you into seeing it as soon as possible, which I don't think that you realized quite as well as I wanted to, but you did see it, and we're here talking about it now, so I can't complain.
I was a couple days late, man. But damn, I'm I'm ashamed.
But you did it, and that's what counts. So a recommendation-wise, consensus would be to see this in theaters. Yes,
absolutely, without a doubt.
Very good, very good. Would you like to jump into spoilers?
Yeah, we can jump into spoilers. We can start with the first opening scene, I guess, with him playing guitar. And you know what kind of music you're going to be getting into, and you're going to know like the pedigree of the music you're getting into. Mm-hmm. And I thought that was an outstanding first place to start. But then shortly after, you get into Lady Gaga's character, Allie, and she goes out to the they meet at the drag bar, and Bradley Cooper's character, he's drunk, but he's sitting there and he's listening to the music and stuff, and then she comes on the stage and she just nails it, and she's singing the whole song in French. And at the end of the song, Bradley Cooper's he's trying not to cry about it because it was fucking good. And that's the first, the cinematography in that bar was incredible. With her doing her dancing and stuff, and she gets up on the bar and walks over, and you get your first lingering shot of a face, and it was awesome. It was really fucking good. And she sang it in French, and I didn't know what the fuck she was saying, but that's when it started pulling at the fucking heartstrings, because of the way she looked at him and the way he's looking at her and the fucking music and the way it's shot, and it was just so fucking good. And I was like, oh, this is gonna be a good movie. I know I'm in for a ride.
Yeah, I mean, you can feel the intimacy like 20
immediately.
Minutes in.
Yeah,
it's 10 minutes in maybe.
Awesome, so fucking good.
Yeah, it's really strong. All the sequences in here, I think, are really kind of impactful in some different sort of ways. To kind of, I guess, address things that I felt like. Probably the one big thing I feel like it didn't totally work for me, and that's kind of somewhat misleading. It didn't really bother me that much. I just felt like the tracking of time, the chronology of this movie felt a little bit rushed, and I think that's just, again, kind of due to the nature of a 2-ish hour movie and tracking a lot of story. Like, there's just a lot that happens. We go from them not knowing each other to falling in love to getting married to the end. There's a lot to kind of cover, and all the character moments are just like really phenomenal, and it almost feels in some ways like kind of vignettes of their lives. So I don't know that it's so much rushed intentionally, but I think it's a credit to the movie that, in spite of kind of maybe jumping around a little bit, and just kind of seeing these little slices of their life, that there's still impact to a lot of it. I think that the first half, like the moments of them like meeting, like kind of what you talked about, that sequence, I think I prefer the first half to the second half, but that also just might mirror kind of my personal feelings in watching the movie. I've only seen it once, but watch it.
I would have not to cut you off. I viewed the movie as him being, I feel him as being spontaneous and compulsive in a lot of different ways. And so I don't know chronologically what the order of time is. I guess you can maybe gauge it by the size of the dog as the dog size changes, I guess, maybe. But I viewed it as everything was very fast. I viewed their relationship was very fast. You know what I mean? I guess he was only. How long was he in AA for? Do you know? When he goes to that retreat?
I think a couple months.
Was it a couple months?
Maybe a few months. I think it's at least a couple months. But again, you've seen it more recently.
Yeah, I'm not sure, but that wasn't the only critique I could really come up with for this movie was I didn't understand the Dave Chappelle interaction. Like he fell asleep and he passed out in the bushes, and then Dave Chappelle was there and walked him in, and they knew each other somehow. Did you make that connection at all?
I interpreted it as Chappelle was a musician that he played with formerly, so I think that they were friends from playing together. Right. I don't remember exactly the circumstances of why. I think it was in Memphis. Where they were.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. He went to Tennessee, and he played at a thing. So maybe he was just supposed to crash over at Chappelle's house?
Yeah, that's probably kind of what it was. But yeah, maybe there wasn't enough connective tissue to kind of totally relate that. But then he has like a bunch of like guitars and stuff on the wall. So that's kind of where I think it's pretty apparent that he was a musician too. So there's a friendship kind of based on that, I would say.
Okay, I mean, that was the only critique. There was not a lot of connective tissue for that character, or at least I didn't pick up on it, why he was at that character's home to begin with, or why they were there, you know?
Yeah, I think it was just kind of an old friend, and, he's in town, he stays with his old friend, is kind of what I gathered out of that.
I gotcha.
I think I was, before you rudely cut me off.
I'm sorry, yeah, apologize.
No, you're fine, I'm just kidding. I think I was just saying, I think the reason I think that I maybe like the first half more than the second half is because the first half is the building of the relationship, and then the second half is the testing and the breaking of the relationship in the hardest way possible. The first half, like you kind of, you want to see these characters grow together, and then you see the culmination in that with the performance of Shallow on stage. Like it's just like it's a feel good movie at that point. And then it kind of moves away from that. And the most immediate comparison I can come up with is La La Land.
Yeah.
I think there are some obvious similarities, obviously, in terms of kind of the types of movie that they are. But in terms of the feels that I had, I think that there's a lot of parallels. And I think there's some parallels in kind of the story structure, too. And this one definitely ends, I think, in a far darker way than La La Land. I mean, La La Land for a movie, for me, it was like the first time you watch it, you're like, by the time it ends, you're like, well, fuck me. It was kind of like I felt like really sad by the end of La La Land. And then the second time I watched La La Land, it was like acceptance. It was just like, I get it, Right. Wasn't going to work, I get it. This one, I'm not sure that it's going to have the same type of feeling on a second viewing.
That's sad.
And we can get to the ending momentarily, because I think that's definitely a big thing to talk about. But this one, I think that there's something really provocative about kind of how it ends, and kind of how why it ends the ways that it does. But it's tough to watch, and I don't think that it's going to be a movie that gets easier to watch with time. I think that it's always going to kind of hit you right in the gut. I had a lump in my throat for like the last 20 minutes of this movie, and like I didn't want to listen to the soundtrack for like a couple days after watching the movie, because I was just like, it's going to remind me of that.
Yeah,
I'm like, I don't want to be reminded of that. Like, I'm at the point now where I've had some distance and some separation. I'm like, I could just listen to the music because it's fucking really good. But that last third act of the movie is just really fucking tough to watch, and it's powerful.
Bradley Cooper does a really good job of portraying a very troubled individual. Just a very multifaceted character.
So, I mean, I think we can probably go ahead and slide into the ending here. Yeah.
Oh yeah. Mm-hmm.
So, well, let me ask you this. I mean, we're in spoilers. We can go ahead and reveal that Bradley Cooper's character, he's confronted by her manager, who says some fucking shitty things to him, and he kind of thinks that the only way for Allie to really properly move on from his actions and to have success and with her career, with her life, is for him to exit her life, and his solution is to be a permanent one. He commits suicide shot of him in the garage and the dog is fucking man.
It's really shit. Oh man,
that was I
rough. Don't even talk about it.
That was rough. But
damn, fuck you, man. I don't even talk about it anymore. It's too soon. I can't talk about it.
Yeah, you need some time. I understand. I 100% understand. I was there. It's the whole ending, man. Is just it's tough, but it's especially kind of the last like particular sequence, the "I'll never love again," the cut back to him, in rehab, and just her looking in the camera like. What a fucking evocative ending, and one that again just punches you right in the gut.
Her hair changes.
She kind of takes it back to kind of what she had when we first met her. Like there's just a lot of
there's a lot of fucking things to think about, man. The characters are so rich. Oh, it's so good. So good.
Yeah. It was depressing to watch that. It's. I think now that I can take a step back. The movie's called A Star Is Born, and just the moment of her looking in the camera, like you can see, like that's the moment A Star Is Born. Like all of this, the good times, the bad times, that tragedy at the end, like that is all leading to her. Becoming the person that she will become, past the final frame of this movie. And like, that's really, really hard hitting. I feel like it's really, really strong storytelling. Like it's very compelling.
And that's the you touched on it a little bit there. What she becomes beyond the final frame. And you know what you're going to get beyond the final frame. You're not going to get my ass looks good in those jeans beyond that final frame. You know what I mean?
Right. Yeah.
And it's, usually with movies, a lot of times anyways, with a lot of movies that are made, I think, you get the characters' lives told within the frames of the movie, and it's self-contained kind of thing. But with this, you're tracking the evolution of a person, and it very much feels that way. And then beyond that final frame, you can anticipate what that person's going to do. You're going to you know who that person is when it ends. You know what I mean? And it's just so good. And we were talking about Sam Elliott's the moment. The moment.
Yeah.
Was the moment in the truck for you?
Yeah. It's the moment.
Okay, yeah, I kind of lost my shit there too.
He really kind of struggled. Bradley Cooper's like really struggles. I didn't idolize Dad, I idolized you, and he kind of just spits it out, and
fucking closes the door.
The lingering shot you talked about of Sam Elliott pulling out of the driveway, and just you kind of just see the tears welling in his eyes. Like fuck, man, like it's really good stuff. It's really beautiful stuff, man. Really, really good stuff. It's
raw. It's real.
It's raw. Yeah, raw is a fucking apt word to describe this movie. Definitely.
It's. I don't know, man. For a directorial debut, for the way everything's written, for the characters, for the acting prowess. I mean, it's just it's. I don't know, man. It might be. I mean, I got blinders on right now because I can't recall everything I've seen all year, but I think this might be the best movie I've seen all year. If not, it might be the best movie I've seen in a very long time. It's a really good movie. I don't have a lot of superlatives to describe it because I'm still my heart's still kind of hurting. I feel like I went to a funeral and I listened to a eulogy of how somebody met and how they lived their lives and how everything fell apart, and then how there's regret, and then it's just so good. It's such a powerful movie. Really fucking powerful, man.
Yeah, I'm getting chills thinking about it, hearing you talking about it. I think that this is definitely going to be a contender for one of the best films of the year. Like I said, I think it should be in the Oscar discussion. And again, there's going to be movies to come that we haven't seen that we might like more, but
I don't think the Sherlock movie is going to be nominated for.
I don't think so either, but there are probably others. As you mentioned, there are some movies coming out this month that might be kind of, in our wheelhouse too. So, I mean, it's too early to definitively say, but I think we know that this is a movie that's going to stick with us for a while, and it's going to be a mainstay in our collection when it comes out. I think on Blu-ray. Yeah,
no, for sure. I'm happy to have seen it. What's this tracking for on the old RT?
I think it was at around 91 last I checked. I'm not sure what the average rating was, but take a quick look. 91%, 8.1 average rating. I would agree across the board on that. So
absolutely.
Yes.
Really powerful movie. That's
hats off to Mr. Bradley Cooper and Miss Lady Gaga.
And
good
everybody
stuff.
that went into
Good
fucking making
stuff.
it, because that cinematography was excellent.
Yep.
It's another thing, man. We're very shortly fixing to transition over to Venom. And I find it so hard. Like, I would imagine if you watch some Darren Aronofsky movies or something like that, you could probably catch the cinematography similarities. You know what I mean? But I just find it so hard to believe that there's the same guy did Venom. It's crazy. He did Venom for a fucking paycheck, for sure.
Yep. Man's got to eat.
Man's got a
family to feed.
Anyways, we can transition into that, I guess, but that's just so crazy.
Let's do just that. Venom. Venom is directed by Ruben Fleischer. It is written by... this movie had a script? Who's to say? It is written by Jeff Pinkner, Scott Rosenberg, and Kelly Marcel. It stars Tom Hardy. It's my Tom Hardy accent from this movie. I'm a reporter.
The Tom Hardy experience.
The Eddie Brock experience. It also stars Michelle Williams and Riz Ahmed. It's about a journalist, Eddie Brock, who gains superpowers after being bound to an alien symbiote. Notice, not a symbiote. They redubbed all of the dialogue for the movie, so it's not inconsistent. They took notice of people pointing out that they originally shot the wrong dialogue. And this alien symbiote has a species that it belongs to that plans to invade Earth. Oh no. Box office. Let's talk some box office. $80.2 million opening weekend.
Woo.
That is an October record for the biggest opening in the month ever. Had a very diverse audience. It's racked up $225.2 million worldwide as of recording this episode. So people are eating some Venom.
A lot of people like Venom.
They are attending this movie. Are they liking this movie? I don't know. Did you like this movie?
I did not like this movie. I went and saw Predators, and that was I feel like a lot of shit compared to the first movie we just talked about it's a pretty shit movie. But I had fun with it. I laughed. I didn't even laugh in this fucking movie. This movie was really bad. I did not like this movie at all. It wasn't a movie that pissed me off. Like, it wasn't an outright waste of time to where I was angry watching this movie. But I definitely did not like it. And then, you hop on the socials and then, everything else, and people are praising it. And people are saying, well, our Rotten Tomatoes got it wrong. No, I don't think they did. I think this is a 30% movie, or a low 20 or a high 20s movie at best.
It's currently sitting at 29% with an average rating of 4.5.
Average rating of 0.5. That sounds
4.5.
Oh.
0.5. No. That would be like a 0% tomato meter. I don't think any movie ever has scored an average rating of 0.5 out of 10. If there is one, I invite our listeners to let me know what it is. I would like to watch it. I mean, Let me look up The Room out of curiosity while we're on the subject. Surely that's got to be higher than 0.5. 2.9.
2.9. Okay,
it's pretty low, but it's not 0.5.
I don't think. I mean, to
anyway.
be fair, I don't think it's not the worst movie ever made, but it certainly is. It's not far above it. I can tell you that.
I can say that this is not the worst movie I've seen this year.
What does that go to?
A Wrinkle in Time still owns that title.
Yeah,
for me.
that was really shit. That was
unwatchable.
That was really shit. Okay, you're right. We have seen some really bad movies.
That said, I think this is probably the second worst movie I've seen this year, and I think it will probably remain that way. I hope it remains that way. To kind of talk. Yeah. Well, I don't want to watch any other shit myself, but Aquaman comes out this year. Who's to say?
It's true.
I saw the same thing you're kind of talking about. Not necessarily like gushing praise for this. Like, this is really great. Like, more just like this is so batshit that like it's actually kind of entertaining in its own right, and like, it's kind of a fun movie. Like, it's not like a dour experience like watching. I mean, Justice League is definitely better than this, but maybe like Suicide Squad. Like, I think this is better than Suicide Squad.
Oh, for sure. Yeah.
Like, Suicide Squad is just like a total train wreck in basically every way possible, and this one is kind of a mix of two movies, and it can't decide what it wants to be. And I see where people are coming from in the sense that part of this movie could be entertaining for some, but it wasn't for me. I see that there are kind of moments in this that I think would land with general audiences, and like there's some humor, but I think that this movie could have. I don't want to say that it could have worked, but I think that it could have been more enjoyable if it just committed to a singular tone instead of having the whiplash of the most generic, boring fucking superhero movie ever made and this weird slapstick movie that the movie kind of morphs into about an hour in. As it stands, because it's kind of that weird, this weird monstrosity of two bad things. It's not like the bads cancel out and make something good. It's just bad on bad. It's a terrible movie. I don't really want to sugarcoat it. Again, there are worse movies than this. It's not Catwoman. It's not Fantastic Four or Fantastic tier. Like, it's certainly a cut above that. It's a cut above a Suicide Squad, but it is without a doubt one of the worst movies that's going to come out this year. And
the first third of the movie, third of the movie was really fucking boring.
I would say the first hour of this movie is
God
dreadful.
Damn.
Just absolute fucking monotony the whole way through. It's bad. It's really bad.
It picks up a little bit when he gets the suit and stuff.
Right, and that's where it turns into that different movie.
Right,
but the first hour, like I said, it's just this most generic, like, here's this evil corporation, and they've got these aliens, and they're going to test them on these people, and like, oh, give me a fucking break. And I'm Eddie Block, I'm a reporter.
I got fired. I lost my girlfriend.
I got fired because I did something
like spoilers. I'm sorry.
Super. What it happens in the first 10 minutes doesn't matter. Also, who gives a shit about spoilers for this movie? Come on. We will honor our usual policy of keeping this relatively spoiler free. But look, come on. Like, I don't know why anyone would get upset by like knowing spoilers for this movie. Like, the trailer tells you everything you need to know. Like, this movie is. I would say that the trailers were an adequate representation of this movie.
That's fair.
And we hated the trailers, so it's not surprising that we felt very similarly about this movie in its entirety. I think there was I don't remember. I think I saw it was like maybe one of the YouTube ads or something like that. And sometimes they have like the promotions before you're watching the video you actually want to watch. And it was Jenny Slate who plays one of the doctors. She's great. She's Mona Lisa Saperstein in Parks and Rec, where she's great. And this, she's just like a generic like doctor that's trying to do a good thing because she's like, oh, the evil guy's evil, blah, 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 whatever. She was talking about like, I don't remember the exact thing which she was saying, but she was basically like, like this. The interview was like, well, what can you say about this movie? She's like, well, the trailer was only like 2 minutes, so like there's like a whole movie and all that stuff is in the movie. So like the movie is like the trailer but longer. And I was just like, that is a great way of describing this movie. Don't say anything substantive about it because you cannot be generous about the quality.
There's
just point out that this movie is an extended version of the trailer and includes all of those scenes. In fact, it might include a whole scene as its ending scene. Who's to say? But
let's talk about the cinematography. You talked about the boringness of everything, and it's so hard to believe that you have the same guy. I just can't get over it. I know I've talked about it multiple times, but it blows my mind that somebody. I mean, you could just tell, man. I mean, it's shot generic, There's
nothing that stands out.
There's nothing
visually
noteworthy
for this movie.
Oh.
Like San Francisco isn't represented particularly well.
No. I mean,
Venom himself is not represented particularly well.
Let me ask you this: is it the lack? Surely it's the lack of direction.
I think that's part of it. I think Ruben Fleischer, he might be a one-hit wonder. He did Zombieland, which I'm a big fan of. But then he did Gangster Squad, which sucked ass. I don't know if he's done anything else, but I think of what he has done, it's all been kind of like schlocky crap like this. 30 Minutes or Less, he did that. That was also with Jesse Eisenberg, and that one was also crap. He had a bomb strapped to his chest, but he was a pizza man. But
what?
I don't know. Also had Danny McBride in it, writer of Halloween.
All right.
Anyway, yeah, I talked about it before. This just feels like paychecks for everyone, certainly. Michelle Williams actually literally admitted that she basically just took a paycheck for this movie, and it definitely shows, because I would say, with the exception...
which one was she? Who was she? The girlfriend?
She was his girlfriend, ex-girlfriend or whatever.
She's pretty cool.
With the exception of Tom Hardy, everyone is sleepwalking through this movie. And I'll get to Tom Hardy in a minute, because he's not sleepwalking through this movie. He's doing something else entirely. Some people seem to think that that's good. Some people don't agree with that. Again, I'll get to that. But everyone's just kind of like sleepwalking through this movie, and I feel like the whole thing is just Sony sleepwalking through this. Like, it's like, let's make this Venom movie without anything that actually makes this character interesting. Let's strip this character of anything that might make this character interesting, and it's debatable whether this character is ever interesting. I'm not going to have that debate now, but I can safely say that if there was anything in the comic book character, I mean, obviously it's a renowned comic book character. People really like it. I think it comes to the design mostly. I think people like. I honestly think this is as simple as Venom looks cool, and that's the end of. That's good enough for people,
But does he?
In this movie, I would say no. I think in general, yes, as like a perverted version of Spider-Man, I think it's an interesting design.
No, I mean, just Venom in general, yes, he does look cool. He does look, I mean, yeah, Venom's a cool looking character, and this movie doesn't look fucking cool.
I agree with that. I think
Spider-Man 3, he doesn't look cool. Or 2, or whatever the fuck.
It was 3. I think that they got... Like, let's just have a sidebar on the design here. I think that I don't think the CG is good. It looks better than it did in the trailers. I will grant that.
It does.
But I just the design. Weirdly enough, you need the spider on the chest. You need something to break up this big black blob that Venom is. Like, the face, I think, is fine, with the exception of like the animation of the mouth when he's talking. I don't know that there's a good way to do that, but it doesn't work here. But the actual design, like, they make him this hulking monstrosity, which is, I mean, he's not Topher Grace. He's not Eric Foreman, which I guess that could be argued as an improvement.
He's supposed
in terms
to be
of design
a
anyway,
mass, though, right? I mean,
right?
That's...
well, sort of. Initially, he wasn't, and then Todd McFarlane takes over in the comics. Then he kind of turns into that with the big, teeth and the lashing tongue and drool and all that stuff. But he's, as with every character in the comics, he's gone through different design evolutions, and this one's probably more representative of like the iconic look of Venom, whereas I think the Raimi Venom is more representative of the
Just
first
Spider-Man?
appearance of Venom.
Right.
Well, I mean, the first appearance of Venom was basically like almost a mirror of Spider-Man in terms of physical dimensions, except he just had like lots of teeth. Like that was pretty much the only difference, is he had teeth. It was Spider-Man with teeth, which is kind of weird. And I think that the design, that's the iconic look, is definitely a better design overall, but I just don't think it's realized super well here. I just doesn't look particularly good. The animation, again, is a little bit off, especially when it's like kind of going between Eddie Brock and Venom. Looks bad. And there's I think a lot of the reason that this movie, I've seen a lot of reviews talk about this, how this feels like a movie that was made 15 years ago.
I do see that a lot as well, yeah.
It seems like it was afraid of like showing Venom too much. Like, it's an origin movie, but like it takes a long fucking time for proper Venom to show up. And when he does, he's used very sparingly, and there's a lot of like Tom Hardy like bumbling around like, oh, I don't want to do that, you know, and like tendrils kind of flying around, and you know, there's like car chases and like the motorcycle chase. And it's just like so generic feeling. Like, it's so soulless. Like, there just doesn't seem to be any sort of drive in anyone involved. Why was this made? That's my takeaway, is like, why? I mean, it made money, so obviously from a financial standpoint, Sony's sitting pretty. And great, I'm sure we'll get a sequel to this. We can talk about that later. But I just, if you're going to make this movie, like...
That brings an interesting question.
I would just put some effort into it, but...
If they do have a sequel, it's going to be made by Disney, though, right?
No, this is Sony.
Oh, yeah, okay. All right, never mind. I guess you're right.
And you know, we'll talk about it in spoilers, kind of basically Sony's future as far as the Marvel characters are concerned. I think it's going to be better suited for kind of discussion in there. But yeah, just to kind of, I mean, let's talk about Tom Hardy in this movie.
Okay.
Because
let's talk about it.
Yeah, you know, I think Tom Hardy was in a different movie than everyone else in this movie. Like, he's the only one that looked at this script, the supposed script that exists. I want to see the receipts on that personally. He looked at this, and you know, I feel like he took one glance at that and just kind of, you know, like laughed to himself. He's like, okay, I'll do this. Mm-hmm. Yeah, you know, and we've seen Tom Hardy give legitimate performances before. Like, this is Tom Hardy. Like I am going to take this shit to 11. And in some ways, I kind of respect him for doing that, but at the same time, it's really, really bad. Like, he is legitimately terrible in this film, in like in an intentional way. So I can kind of, like, in like a tongue-in-cheek kind of way, like, he knows that like this is schlocky crap, and so he just kind of rolls with that. And like I said, everyone else is just kind of like part of this generic movie, and Tom Hardy is just over here doing this fucking crazy ass like performance. Like it's like he's like Shia LaBeouf in this thing, man. Yeah. Like what is he doing? Like he can't help but like watch and be like,
I have a parasite.
What's sorry, Miss Chen, I got a parasite. Yeah, no big deal. Oh, yeah, sorry. Like, what?
Why you want to bite off their heads? It's so shit. It's really bad. God damn.
Like I think that there's a version of this movie where everyone does that, and it's just a full-blown comedy. And I think that it might actually be kind of funny. Like, I don't know why you would make this movie like a full-blown comedy like that, but if you're going to take that direction, like, lean into it, man. Like, that's what I would do. Instead, you've got, like I said, you got this weird hodgepodge of like Tom Hardy losing his fucking mind while he's filming this movie. Like, dude's having the time of his life. That's for sure. And then everyone else is just like, oh my God, is this day over yet? I just want my money and I want to go home. Everyone else is that way. And Tom Hardy's like, this is fucking great. I'm having a great time, yeah. You know, like that's his mindset. And I'm like, you know what? You know, he went for it. He didn't succeed. but he went for it, and for that, like, I guess
he gets a paycheck.
You do you, man. He definitely got a paycheck. Yeah.
Yeah, he definitely goes above and beyond everyone else. That is for sure.
Yeah, he's definitely he's in a different movie. He's in his own world, but I guess that's what he wanted to do. And if the director thinks that that's an okay approach, and he's just like, Tom, what are you doing right now? Like, if the director doesn't have the wherewithal to say that, then why question it?
Hey, Tom, where'd you get that fucking accent from, man?
Yeah, I've been to New York a couple times. Yeah, I did some research. I talked to a reporter in New York.
Hey, Tom, just scratch the accent. You're a big dude. Why don't you just sound like a big dude?
Are you?
Yeah. You remember that role you did in the Batman movie? Do that. Yeah, like that. But just make it. Yeah, just make it sound like a deep badass voice. Why don't you do that?
Venom.
I'm Eddie Brock.
Eddie Brock. Welcome to the Eddie Brock Report. Where's Spider-Man in this movie?
Good. See? Yeah, that's so much better. Yeah, so...
anyway.
Recommendations?
My recommendation is that Sony go fuck themselves and stop making shit like this and let Marvel Studios do their thing. Like, if you want Venom if you want a Venom movie, I feel like Kevin Feige and company would say, yeah, we could do that. Maybe not right now, but like, give us a couple of years. Like, yeah, we'd be down to do that. Like, there's no reason like you can't have like a Venom standalone movie in the MCU and have people that actually read comics about this character and understand what he's about, instead of just looking at the cover and thinking, that guy looks cool, I want to do that. Looking at you, Aviera, you fuck. But actual recommendation, so let me just say that my logic here is, I think that when we had the Predator episode, we agreed that was a wait for Netflix movie, right?
Yeah, I think so.
Does that sound right? So by that same token, I enjoyed that movie a lot fucking more than this. I think this is a legitimately bad, I think this is an objectively bad movie. And so by using the standards that we've set out, I think you gotta wait for someone to pay you to watch it.
No, I completely agree. I can tell you that
obviously people have had like entertainment value out of this movie for one reason or another, whether it's because they legitimately enjoyed it because they're delusional, or because they are leaning into it in a way that obviously isn't jiving with us. But this is I don't see anything really that redeemable about this movie. That would even like go into that guilty pleasure territory. Like, this is like I don't think I'll ever own this or watch this movie ever again in my life kind of movie. Like, even on TV, I'm kind of just going to be like,
no, I don't want to watch that.
I'll just change the channel. I'll just change the channel. I'll watch.
There's always something better on. HGTV, watching some motherfuckers redesign a house.
I'll watch some Property Brothers instead of this. It sounds better.
Right.
I'll watch Jersey Shore instead of this. Maybe not.
That might be a stretch.
Yeah, maybe not. It's about the same tier.
But I mean, if you look at it objectively from maybe it's a funny movie. Well, there's no comedy for the first third of the movie.
That's just it. If you
right. So
if they did something to spice up the first hour, I could see it again as like elevating into that guilty pleasure type territory. Like, right. I think The Predator was a bad movie, but there was a lot of entertainment value there. Right. This one is just like an hour of just dull garbage. And then some slapsticky fun kind of like, what the hell's going on? This is not what I expected kind of moments. And then it's just, but then it kind of bounces between that and like, oh no, it's still the first hour. It's not like it's still bad. No, it's still bad.
Yeah, and it just, there's not a lot there. So yeah, no, I completely agree with you. Somebody's got to pay me to watch it again. I won't. If I had somebody over and they said, "Oh, Venom, let's watch that," I would say, "No, I'm not watching that. We're gonna pick something else, anything else but that. I'm not gonna watch that." I just, like I said, it wasn't bad to the point where it angered me. I've been angry when I watched it at the theaters before. It's like, God damn it, I don't want to be here right now. That wasn't this. But at the same time, this was just really bad.
Yeah, I'll agree with that. It wasn't like I wasn't like Wrinkle in Time. Like I wanted to just get up and leave. This one, I feel like I could have gotten up and left at any point, and it wouldn't have hurt my feelings. But it was mostly just kind of like I was just like squinty, like watching this movie. I'm like, really, that's what they're gonna go for? Like, okay. Like, and a lot of like I think there's like some cogs turning in my brain of like, really, Sony? Like this is what you came up with? And then I look at the box office receipts and I'm like, well, I guess if you don't need to try and people will reward you for it, then fuck it. Maybe they're in the right, But
right?
I'm just like, I feel like, my expectations were set extremely low for this movie walking in, and I got pretty much what I expected. And I was just like, if there was even some like modicum of like just slight entertainment in this, then I could have maybe latched onto that and, kind of got on board. But as it was just kind of like I was waiting for it to like turn the corner of like,
I think,
oh no, this is kind of fun. I'm like, no, this is even when it's kind of taken that turn, it's still bad.
I think Venom should be an R movie. Is that wrong?
I think that's fair. Like, I think.
I mean, you could make a Venom standalone film.
If you make a Spider-Man and Venom movie, I think that could easily be PG-13, and there's no reason for it to really be R. But I think like a standalone Venom, like, I almost think you should lean into it. Like, especially with the approach they took, it's almost Deadpool-y in some ways. So like, why not just go full tilt and do that, like as an R-rated movie with violence and
some horror
aspects. That comes with
you
the
could definitely do some
like,
horror aspect stuff in there.
Definitely, yeah.
So yeah. I don't know. They just could have gone in a completely different direction and preferably a more consistent one. But I think you'd have a better movie in a completely different direction than it went into.
Well, I mean, I think the bottom line is if they just made a movie that was completely different and wasn't complete shit, then they might have made
There's a version of this movie
us.
That's completely different. That might be good.
If they scrapped the entire movie and recast and reshot everything and let other people write it and other people direct it and other people star in it, I think there's a version of this movie that could work. Absolutely. I mean, it's not the Venom character. It's literally everything else in this movie that is where they went wrong. So, yeah, I think that's fair. I think that's a fair assessment. Let's do spoilers. Full spoilers for Venom. Again, who gives a shit? But I kind of already alluded to it, and non-spoilers, sorry for anyone that cares. I think they actually kind of put this on the record already, but no Spider-Man in this movie, not a single reference to the character existing. Definitely a clear intent that this is its own universe. Even if Sony wants to integrate this with the MCU, there's certainly no references to a broader universe that this would really kind of cleanly align with. And again, I guess maybe to elaborate on kind of what I was talking about, I feel like this character, like you strip him of basically these Spider-Man traits, and it's just not really interesting. Like they kind of gave the symbiote like this dude bro personality, but I felt like the characterization of Eddie Brock and the symbiote together made no sense.
No, it didn't.
Like there's no reason for them to bond the way that they do in the way that they do in the comics. Like basically it's just, like the whole thing they're talking about, like the whole thing of this movie is like the symbiote is like rejecting the host because they're not like a match. And then like Eddie Brock and the Venom symbiote get matched up, and then like they really hit it off, like they're pals from the beginning. And they have this kind of back and forth kind of, dialogue. But I don't like there's no justification for that whatsoever.
In the comics, and I might be wrong, I might be thinking of the old Spider-Man movies. I don't know, but isn't the symbiote supposed to be an extension of the person? Like it's supposed to amplify negative feelings or negative attitudes or suppressed attitudes and stuff.
Yeah, I think that's part of it. I mean, that's definitely in the Raimi film too, Spider-Man 3.
Okay, maybe that's what I'm thinking of.
But I think at least in terms of the comics, what you have is Spider-Man gets the symbiote suit, and eventually he kind of comes to this realization that, it's messing with him, in the way that you're kind of describing. And so he gets rid of it. And so the symbiote is, in some ways, is kind of like a jilted lover. And it finds, it latches onto Eddie Brock, who also has this hatred for Peter Parker in general due to their kind of personal rivalry. And so, it amplifies kind of Eddie Brock's feelings. But it has this kind of like, especially in the beginning, like this hatred of Spider-Man because of like that relationship. And then you just take that out of the equation here, and it's just like, none of that's here. Like in terms of the characterization, like it just doesn't make sense why they bond at the beginning, because that's gone. And then even within the context of the own movie, it just doesn't make any sense, like where they have this like super friendly relationship, and then like just the way that like, like why is Eddie so attracted to this? Like,
hey,
it
Eddie,
just doesn't make sense.
I want to save the Earth now, and I want to stay here with you.
Yeah,
I like Earth.
Like there's just like a very hard transition where like Eddie's like, well, I gotta get this thing off me, or what, like that's him for like 30 minutes, and then he gets it off of him in the doctor's office, and he's just like, oh, it's sweet, I don't have the thing on me. And then like 5 minutes later, like they're best buds again, like without any sort of real justification. And then Venom's like, yeah, this place is pretty chill. I think I might stick around. Like, I'm a loser on my planet, so I'm gonna hang around here because I'm the top dog. Like,
I'm like you, Eddie. I'm a loser.
Like, I just found all of it just. I mean, it's stupid. I mean, it's fucking stupid. Incredibly dumb to begin with. But it felt like there was parts of this movie missing, or possibly not shot at all, because it was written in such a haphazard manner. If it was written at all.
Hardy said that they cut out 40 minutes worth of his character.
Well, yeah. Then he kind of backtracked that, and I don't know what the full story is with this movie. Whether it was, I said some of it feels like cuts, but I don't know that there's a lot that repairs this movie. I don't think this is a situation of you put 20 minutes back in this movie and suddenly it's a good fucking movie. Like, no, there's no version of the movie as shot that fixes it. Like, the Suicide Squad scenario of like, every version of this movie fucking sucks. It's just different levels of suck, right. Like it changes it from like maybe a 2 or 3 out of 10 to like a 3.5 or 4 out of 10. It's also a Batman v Superman kind of scenario of like the ultimate cut fixes everything. Like, no, it addresses like 2 plot holes, but it's now 3 hours long and it still sucks. So it has other problems to deal with. I would also, I'm gonna go ahead and say that there is a glaring plot hole in this movie, which I would also offer as evidence of the fact that this movie, if it in fact had a script at any point, had never been looked over by anyone, even during the shooting of this. So the movie starts with the symbiotes crashing onto Earth, and then the Riot symbiote kind of jumps from host to host to host, right, and then ends up in this old lady, right?
Yeah.
And then we go to Tom Hardy, or we go to Eddie Brock, who's he's I'm the Eddie Brock report. I'm telling the truth. And then this whole thing, he gets the information from his girlfriend's computer, and is like, well, why you killing people, Mr. Evil Man? Why you doing it? And he's like, all right, have a nice life, motherfucker. Have a nice life. That was like their gotcha line that they used like 4 lines. What a fucking joke. Give me a break. So that all happens. He gets fired. There's a 6 months later title card. I'm pretty sure at the beginning of the movie, we end with the lady at the airport, like with the implication, like, oh shit, the infected lady's coming. What the fuck was she doing for 6 months?
No, yeah, that's true.
What happened there? Also, why was she inhabiting that same host for 6 months? Like, I guess you could just say that they were really good fucking, compatible hosts. Well, then why does he ever get rid of her? Why does he jump to the little girl, for instance? It was just like, come on, like that's the most basic thing to look at here. Like, how do you let something like that go? And like I know I shouldn't be surprised, but what the fuck, man? Like,
Just doesn't make any sense, does it?
Just doesn't make any sense, does it?
And you're not going to make any sense of it.
No. And I guess, again, if people don't give a shit about that sort of thing, then why should Sony? I mean, I suppose there is a valid argument to be made for that kind of mindset, but that to me is frustrating because again, there's nothing inherently wrong with making this movie. I mean, as someone that wants to see Spider-Man characters integrated properly into the MCU, I would like to see a version of Venom, interact with Spider-Man. And to me, it doesn't make sense to have this weird separated version of him, but there's still a version of this that could work, whether it's, a more horror-inspired R-rated version, as you kind of talked about, or something else entirely, I don't know. But do you have any spoiler thoughts that you'd like to get on the record? We definitely have to talk about the mid-credit scene, but before we get to that, do you have any just general spoiler thoughts you wanted to spit out?
No, I've got not much to say about this movie.
Plus, it's been a few days for the both of us, and again, this is a movie that, like, in your eye, I was gonna say in one ear out the other, which I guess you hear up in this movie too, so it's somewhat accurate. But yeah, like this movie does not stick around in your brain for any sort of reason other than just sheer stupidity and the gall of Sony to release this as a final product, basically, and the gall of Sony to release that mid-credit scene as part of this movie.
I heard one guy go, "Oh yeah, dude, what the fuck are you? You come in here high?"
I mean, that might be one way to enjoy the movie.
It might be the only way, I suppose. Maybe you're right.
Got to dull the senses somehow, I suppose. But
that guy goes, "Oh yeah."
So this mid-credit scene is, Eddie Block. He's a big time reporter again because I don't remember why, but he's a good guy now. He got everything solved, so it's fine. Oh, I guess he proved.
He brought his phone.
He proved that evil guy was an evil guy. Yeah, he brought the phone. Dude, you've ever heard of email? Have you ever heard of text messaging? What a fuckwit. Like, again, like this movie was made like 20 years ago before this technology was like, nah, email still existed then. So.
Yeah, for sure.
No, I mean, like maybe texting, yeah, I'll give you that, but
they had to have the sequence where he ran up the building, though. They did have to have that.
Yeah. It was crucial.
Stupid.
This mid-credit scene. He's a big-time reporter, and he's doing an interview, I guess, with a serial killer who's incarcerated by the name of Cletus Cassidy, portrayed by one Woody Harrelson, wearing one wig stolen from Annie the musical. What were they thinking? You're all right. Let's role play here. I'm Woody Harrelson. You're the Sony executive, and I'm thinking, why are you going to put this wig on me? I'm a
Carnage
pretty
is
big
red.
actor.
So we're going to put red hair on you.
Well, Cletus Cassidy has red hair. All right, I get that, but where did you get this wig? I mean, is this?
We had it lying around from Annie the musical.
Did you recycle this from that Annie movie you just did a few years ago? Like,
I don't know. I don't know why the fuck they'd pick that wig.
And it's not. That might be the worst of it, but I'm not sure that it is because this is like straight out of the Amazing Spider-Man 2 playbook of, and this is literal dialogue here. I had to pull up the quote for good measure. When I get out of here, and I will, there's gonna be carnage.
Fade to black. End scene, perfect, Woody.
I wish the people listening to this could see my face right now because I'm in disbelief. I just don't fucking understand. I'm blown away by the prospect of this getting anyone any amount hyped for anything. Like,
well, the one guy in my theater was pretty fucking hyped.
Right, and like that blows my mind. Like people.
But it goes to. I think you said it best because I think we talked about this. It's if you're hyped about that, then you probably thoroughly enjoyed this movie.
Yeah, that's true. I did kind of say as much. If I guess if you're enjoying this movie, then that's the level of writing that's going to get you excited for. Oh, they're going to do carnage. That's that guy. Someone should check that guy's underoos because might be some business going on in there. But
oh yeah, sound like fucking Kool-Aid Man. Man.
I wish in some respect that I could be on that level where this is something that would satisfy me. Like, I want to understand. I want to understand, but I just can't. Like, I can't get past that. Like, I can maybe write off people enjoying Tom Hardy in this movie. I cannot write off people thinking that, like, this is, like, some really exciting tease of what's coming. I mean, yeah, okay, people like Carnage. I get it. In the same way that people like Venom. He's Venom, but he's red and he kills people. So let's make a PG-13 movie of him alluding to killing people or killing people off screen because that's great. Like, I can say
man.
This movie is talking about this movie is getting more frustrated than actually watching the movie did. But
it's just,
yeah, you know what? We're running long here then, and. You know what?
Ran out of good things to say about the first movie, and we're running out of bad things to say about this one.
A good bit longer about just the dumb things in this movie, but in the interest of really kind of, I don't know that there's much more that I could say that wouldn't just kind of harp on kind of the same things that I've already been saying, and so I'll just say it. This movie is bad. I think this movie is going to get a sequel. I think as long as it's separated from what Marvel is trying to do, as long as Sony plays ball and allowing Tom Holland to continue being Spider-Man, I really don't care that Sony does like these kind of movies because clearly there's an audience for it. I think the only point where I might personally think that the line should be drawn is like when they start dipping into characters that jeopardizes the Spider-Man movies themselves. If
right.
because they're like, we're going to make a Morbius movie, we're going to make a fucking Kraven movie. And I'm like, I want to see Kraven in a Spider-Man movie.
Yeah, no, Kraven would be cool.
Like that is a character 100% deserving of being like a villain in a movie that Spider-Man is the main character in. Like, I don't, what, like, and I guess for me, like, I don't really understand the approach. Like I get it. Venom looks cool. People like Venom, but who gives a flying fuck about Morbius? Do you?
No. Sony, you can fuck around with Morbius, but
like, is that movie gonna make money? Like,
oh yeah,
surely. I don't think so though. Like, I get Venom making money because it's a character that's recognizable that people like, but Morbius he's a fucking vampire. He's the living vampire. And he's going to be Jared Leto. Like, oh my God, I cannot think of a worse combination right now of Sony making a Marvel movie with Jared fucking Leto. Like, give me a fucking break. God, I think I'd rather watch Venom 10 times before I pull that, watch that shit. Which, I say that now, and I'll almost certainly watch that shit opening weekend out of curiosity, but...
Oh, I know, you definitely watch it. We went and watched this shit. We went and watched fucking Wrinkle in Time, didn't we?
Yeah, we did. We've made some sacrifices.
We do it for you. Oh, Fox. You Fox. Things you put us through.
We do it to ourselves. We don't really have that big of a listener fan base to justify.
I blame it on our 8 listeners.
To blame people. I guess a little bit more than that, usually. Not by much. Yeah, so Venom, bad. Star is Born, good. I think that is... a very simple way of saying that if you're going to see anything that came out this past weekend, for the love of fucking everything in the world, do not see Venom.
There's a right and wrong.
Go and watch A Star is Born. Support the movie that is good, that had talent going into it. I mean, it's talented people in Venom, don't get me wrong, but talented people that give a shit. Like, reward those people for those efforts. Like, come on. Like, it's a no-brainer. Let's move on and kind of wind this down. What have you been up to since we recorded last?
So since we recorded last, I watched a little show called Maniac on the Netflix. and it is
a little
very
Cary
good.
Fukunaga action, huh?
Yes, and it is very good. I can highly recommend this show.
You finished it, right?
I did finish it, yeah.
Okay.
I think 45-ish minute episodes, and I think there's 10 of them, if I'm not mistaken. And it tells a very tight, concise story, and it is it's well acted, it's well realized. It's kind of batshit crazy, but it does it in a very it's not totally out there to where it's hard to follow. And
would you say that it's Legion-esque in terms of kind of like
definitely
batshit kind of? Okay, yeah,
For
that's
sure.
kind of the vibe I got from it.
Yeah.
Obviously, different genre. I think, having not watched it, but yeah, I was just curious if it was kind of in that same.
Yeah, no, it's definitely. I think it's easier. It's probably easier to draw like parallels and stuff than Legion. But it's really you can tell that somebody very talented wanted to tell the story, and I think it's really well told. Hit me in the feels in a couple different times. But definitely a very well made show. And at the same time, definitely not for everybody. I think a lot of people probably watch the first 2 episodes and say, "Yeah, fuck that, I'm not going to finish it." But if you give it time, I think the characters are well realized, and there's a lot of story to be told there in those 10 episodes, and I really enjoyed my time with it. So, highly recommend it.
Would you say that those 2 episodes are a fair representation of the series, though?
I think it takes 2 to 3 episodes to really catch its rhythm.
Okay.
Is what I would say. I think that the first episode, it's the story's being told in such a way to where like you almost have the first episode's about one character, the second episode's about another character, and the third episode you really start to get into the rhythm of what they're going to be doing. Does that make sense?
Yeah. No, I was just curious. It's definitely on my list of things I want to watch. I know we talked about possibly covering it as an episode, and
if you think you might be into it, like if you watch the trailer and you think you might be into it, there's a very strong likelihood that you will be into it. Just give it a couple episodes to really let it sink its teeth into you, because it's kind of a slow burn. But the characters are worth the investment and the time, and I think it's very well crafted. Okay. That's my opinion on it. I have played a little bit of the Spider-Man game. I'm sure you have as well. I haven't finished the story, but I have seen the introduction of Doc Ock, whatever you would say. And that's pretty good. What about you? What you been up to?
Yeah, Spider-Man's eaten up a lot of my, well, I'm not going to say a lot of my time. I will say a lot of the free time that I allot to doing things that I like to do on my free time. I'm still busy with school, obviously, but I usually try to take some time to myself. Otherwise, I'll feel like I'll go insane. That's not a good thing. So I've spent a lot of time playing Spider-Man. I was talking about good things that Sony has done, which, to be fair, Insomniac developed this, but Sony published it, and so it counts. This is great, fucking phenomenal game. Probably a little bit further in the story than you, but I also have not quite finished it. And, well, the story kind of gets a little batshit. The whole map gets a little batshit once you reach the point that you're talking about.
Yeah, no, it starts overwhelming. Like you think you have a good grasp on the optional things, and then it just kind of really fucking opens up a little bit. At least that's my experience. If that's what you're talking about, I don't know.
Well, I just mean like you can't really traverse very far without running into some conflicts. If that makes sense.
Are you talking about the fucking the people shooting rockets at you and stuff?
Yeah, there's just fucking people everywhere now.
Oh yeah,
like it's not just like pre-designated, like here's a challenge or here's a thing to do or whatever like that. It's all like pretty batshit. That said, I've done, I think, all of the optional stuff. Like I did all of the bases. I've beaten all that. I beat all of the challenges. So I think I pretty much just have the story left to get through, and I think maybe there's some crimes, like certain districts that have like one or two kind of so-and-so
you definitely
crimes
further
left.
than me. You've been playing a lot more than I have then.
So I'm like probably a day or two away from not only beating it, but probably getting the platinum trophy. So
damn, son.
So I've been working towards that for a while now. If I had more time, I probably would have gotten there already, but I'll get there in due time. Great game, highly recommended. Ton of fun, beautiful fucking game, and yeah, if you're gonna consume any sort of Spider-Man related thing,
do that before
in the spirit of Venom. Well, just don't do Venom at all, but definitely get Spider-Man. I've also tried to split some time with Octopath Traveler because I'd been neglecting it for the Nintendo Switch. I'd been kind of neglecting it when Spider-Man came out. Like, Spider-Man was like, this is all my free time that I have for this, and then I felt bad because I'd already dumped like 30 plus hours in Octopath kind of when it came out before I started school, and I was just like, I like me some RPGs, so I spent some time in that and just trying to get back into that. Great game for anyone that enjoys Japanese RPGs, like traditional turn-based combat systems. It's a really great take on that. The art style is just really, really great. So recommend that. Watching things, I finished Luke Cage. I am one episode away from finishing Iron Fist. I will not talk about what I think about those things because we'll talk about it in a future episode again at some point.
Wait till that last episode, man. You're in for a treat.
I can't watch it tonight. It's too late for that, but definitely tomorrow I think I'll get around to it, and then that'll give me like a week or so in between finishing Iron Fist and Daredevil coming out. So I'll have to find something to fill the time, and I'm sure when we record our next episode, we'll find
Maniac,
out.
You'll like it.
Well, maybe Maniac. Yeah, there's a few options that I have. Like American Vandal season 2 is up on Netflix too.
Oh, that's true. I need to get on that.
So there's a few things that I'm like, I could watch that, So I'm not sure exactly which direction I'm going to go yet, but looking forward to finishing Iron Fist, definitely. Other than that, that's pretty much all I've been up to. In terms of what I've been able to use my free time for. I forgot that this happened, but the Flight of the Conchords had an HBO special that aired a few nights ago, and I think it's probably available on demand on HBO.
Oh shit!
So I think that.
Well, I know what I'll be watching.
I think that it might be a good time to go in on that because Flight of the Conchords is fantastic. So I think I'm going to try to watch that before we record our next episode. Other than that, like I said, whatever I'm going to fill my time with, I'm not 100% sure on yet, but I'll figure it out. Yeah. But that's pretty much it for me, and it's a long episode, so I think that's got to be it for the episode here. Thank you all for listening. If you enjoyed what you heard, spread the word. If you'd like to support us on Patreon, you can do so again by heading to our website, watchreviewrepeat.com, premium tab, become a patron button, Dark Knight Trilogy episode, exclusively on Patreon. Get on that. I mean, come on. It's a great trilogy. Super fun episode. We had a great conversation about those movies. So, just do it. Do it. Follow us on Twitter at WRRPod. We post a little bit more news on there. We kind of retweet some stuff, so you might get a little bit more news coverage than what you're getting on the episodes. And we post any other things too. Facebook, you can like us there. Watch, Review, Repeat. Questions, comments, suggestions. If you liked Venom and you want to explain why, watchreviewrepeat@gmail.com. Do it. Yeah,
let's have a conversation. We might invite you to be a guest on the fucking next podcast. Maybe on the maybe a Patreon debate.
Yeah, we'll have a separate episode because otherwise we might be here a while.
Yeah. God, that'd be good. So let's hear what you think.
Let's hear it. Intro and outro track, Mechanolith by Kevin MacLeod, licensed under the Creative Commons by Attribution 3.0 license. Our next episode will be another double feature because October is loaded with things that we want to see. So, we are doing Bad Times at the El Royale and First Man. Both movies I think that, again, we are very excited for.
Yeah.
I think are I'm anticipating really enjoying both of these films. Seeing First Man in IMAX very soon, and then Bad Times I'll see probably sometime after that, and hopefully we'll be able to record a little bit closer, at least to kind of when I've been able to see these episodes. So I would say, as an add-on to that, you can anticipate that the next episode we put up will not adhere to kind of the general bi-weekly structure that we've kind of talked about doing. So just kind of the nature of things coming out. We don't want to wait too long because there's more stuff that's coming out later in the month that we
Right.
talk about. Halloween's coming out a couple weeks. Daredevil, like I said, is coming out, so we got a big episode there we want to talk about. So we've got a lot of content really on the horizon that we're going to get to. It's just a matter of organizing it in a way that works for everyone's schedule, and is kind of going to get released in a way that's like, we don't want to put stuff out like like
Too long, yeah.
Too long after it comes out. Yeah, exactly. So we want to get our thoughts on the record, especially since I'm anticipating seeing a lot of this stuff, pretty much as soon as I can. So, do you have any last minute thoughts? You looking forward to our next episode? Anything?
I am very much looking forward to Bad Times. I think I'm really excited about that one. And that's coming off the heels of the fella that directed Cabin in the Woods. Yeah, that's it.
Drew Goddard.
Yeah, I'm really looking forward to that.
And First Man is Damien Chazelle. We talked about La La Land, Whiplash. Come on.
Oh my God! I didn't know those two people did that. I didn't know they do the same movie. Holy shit! So, they're both going to be really good. Yeah, really excited.
So look forward to our coverage of those two films soon. It will be out soon. Until then.
Latest on the Minjay.